listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
And welcome to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Dave Ross, Geoff Schwartz coming to you from a post-NFL draft GM Shuffle edition, Geoff. Before we get to all the drama, and boy, was there a lot of drama, did you have an overarching review, if you will, after the 3 days of chaos that we saw ensue in Green Bay?
So Dave, I went through all the picks, like meticulously, took great notes, and it comes out. It's crazy. Every year this happens, that every team drafted the player they wanted in the slot they wanted and the value that they thought they would get. Like, it's incredible. Everyone gets an A+. Everyone did exactly what every team did, the exact perfect job in this draft. It happens year after year. I don't know how they do it, man. We got to ask the GM. We need a GM on here to ask how they get the perfect draft each and every season. So I want to give a big shout out to all 32 teams for nailing the draft this season. What a great job.
From beginning to end, no changes. Everybody's board went according to plan. And everything went off without a hitch. My goodness. Let's get to those offseason moves here, updated and presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly, everybody. And Geoff, I love it, tongue in cheek, because it was just pure chaos. Started obviously at 5-2 when we saw that, after Cam Ward goes #1, which everybody did expect, Jacksonville then trades with Cleveland, goes to 2, and they get Travis Hunter. And Andrew Berry had told us, hey, this is Shohei Ohtani in cleats, and yet they don't draft Shohei Ohtani in cleats. They move back to 5. That seemed to start the first ripple effect of it. Of course, we're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders. But what did you make of that move? The move that's almost been forgotten, that if Travis Hunter is supposed to be this revolutionary two-way player, that Cleveland was willing to give up on him, if you will, trade down to 5 to get another first-round pick next year from Duval.
So, look, it's very easy to come out and give grades, essentially, right, to teams for the draft. For individual players, I look at process more than individual players, because we don't really know the results of the draft until 2 or 3 years from now, right? So, like, process-wise, I think trading down is always the right move, especially if you're in a position where your quarterback's not really settled, your future is not really known right now. Let's accumulate draft picks. And they still got Mason Graham, #1 defensive tackle on the board at 5, and got an extra first-round pick next season that allows them to in a quarterback-rich class, at least as of now in 2026, allows the opportunity to have ammo to go make a move and get another franchise quarterback. So I like what the Browns did. Yes, Travis Hunter is outstanding, but turning down a first-round pick next season, I think is really hard to do. Now, on the Jacksonville side, it's expensive to move up and get Travis Hunter. And here's why I have concern about that. Travis Hunter might be fantastic. I think he's going to be a good football player. I don't buy the idea that they've drafted 2 players, by the way. They drafted 1 player. He's not going to play both sides consistently if he does at all. It's just too difficult. But what happens if Trevor Lawrence is not good this season, and this new staff decides to move off of Trevor Lawrence? You're down your first-round pick now for next season. So they're basically putting all their eggs in the basket of Travis Hunter plus Trevor Lawrence plus new coaching staff equals a 21st pick, or 22, 23, 24 for next season. If you're anything outside of basically the playoffs this season, I think no one right now is betting on Jacksonville to make the playoffs, that you basically are in a tough spot next season as you don't have assets to go get yourself another quarterback. So that's, I think, where I sit on this trade. The process for the Browns, I thought, was A+. I would do it every single time. For the Jacksonville, I get it. The GM's F them picks. I understand that, but it's a pretty big swing to take in your first draft. And we were told 24 hours out, Jacksonville's taking a swing. They did. Travis Hunter's a fantastic prospect. He might be excellent, and this trade might be worth it in the end. But if he's just not excellent, and Trevor Lawrence is just not what we think he's going to be, they're going to really miss that first-round pick next season.
Yeah, you're the first person I've heard that in the context of what that first-round pick truly equates to. And it's not just the Travis Hunter, but it's also the Liam Cohen. It's also if you can fix Trevor Lawrence and all those things in conjunction to make it worth a #1 pick. That's very interesting than just the pick itself, the whole process that Jacksonville's putting in. That, you're right. That's a big value to give on potentially a very high first round pick. It does feel like, though, that the lead story, at least it was a lead story in the 411 network, was Shedeur Sanders. And it's shocking to me that the draft, it felt like for a lot of other players, we didn't hear a whole lot about all the other players. We just heard so much about Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if there's fault or blame to go there for why that became the way it did, Geoff. But what did you make of that circus that it turned into not just a first day circus, but the entire weekend circus of where Shedeur Sanders would be drafted?
I think one part of being a good analyst, right, is being able to obviously make your own opinion about a player, a topic, but then they presented new information and saying, oops, I messed up. And obviously there was someone at ESPN that just wouldn't do that. Just double, triple down. And the rest of the panel was like, dude, this is happening. Like, let's talk about what's happening. And here's what's happening, right? Whether you like it or not as a player, the NFL is telling you your worth based on where you're drafted. And again, I was a 7th round pick. Did I like being 7th round pick? No, I thought I should be drafted higher. But the NFL told me, hey, Geoff Schwartz, you're a 7th round pick. The NFL is telling Shedeur Sanders he's a 5th round pick. And I agree with what everyone else is saying. It's not because of talent. Well, yes, but that's what the draft is, though. It's not just about your on-field talent. And I think that there was a unique circumstance here where we basically had two different parties of people that talked about Shedeur Sanders' draft grade, essentially, right? We had the forward-facing TV people who seemed to be very positive about Shedeur Sanders. And I understand that. I covered Colorado in the Pac-12 for years, and any negative things said about Colorado, you got hounded, man. Like, hounded. And I understand the idea of, like, I don't want to be hounded. I might be a little positive with my take on Shedeur Sanders. And then if you looked at maybe sort of like the film guys on social media, who I think are really good at their job, Shedeur was on the big board from 25 to 40. And if you think if he's 25 to 40, then dropping in the first round is totally acceptable, especially when there's not a lot of teams at top that wanted quarterbacks or needed quarterbacks, right? The Titans took one. The Giants like the athleticism of Jackson Dart, and that's why he went there. Look, you can certainly argue that Tyler Shuck is not as good as Shedeur. I'm with you there, but the Saints seem very clearly not want Sanders. We heard that all through this process. And then you add in the extra element to this discussion, which is everything else with Sanders, right? Where once you get out of the first round and top of the second round, honestly, you're not drafted at that position to be a starter very often. Other positions you are. You can be drafted to be a starter as a defensive tackle in the second round. But for a quarterback, once you're out of the first round, a lot of times you're not drafted to be the starter, especially not immediately. And then what comes with that, right? Do you want a backup quarterback who the eyeballs are always going to be in everything they do? When you have a bad game, you're going to have to hear about, why don't you play the other kid? And I think that all played a role in this. And I think if you listen to people that talk to other people that know how the process went with Shedeur, very clearly the people in his life overplayed their hand. They told him to not take interviews. He didn't do much at pro day. He seemed to, people put names to stories of Brian Dable supposedly with the Giants, right? This Todd McShay shares a story. I'll give a shout out to Todd McShay. Go check it out. Where he says like they had a meeting with him, asked him to prepare for the meeting. He didn't prepare for the meeting. He got called out for it, didn't like it. I mean, there's a lot of stories about sort of unprofessionalism through this process. And when your problems, in quotes, right, they're not problems like other problems that other players get drafted, but when your problems outweigh your talent, that's when it hurts you, right? When your talent outweighs your problems, the NFL does not care. The NFL very clearly, Dave, does not care about issues, quote, issues you have off the field. They don't care. So I think it's very telling that the NFL basically said, look, man, we don't like the way you acted. And this, again, these are just sources. I mean, I wasn't in the building. I don't know. But very clear this wasn't about talent. So I found it very fascinating how this was covered. I feel bad for Cam Ward, by the way. He was the number one pick in the draft, and no one's going to talk about him.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The number one pick in the draft, and even Travis Hunter, and we just did it off the top of this show here. He almost felt like it became a secondary story as well. And that big trade from 5 to 2, and then everybody else that goes in the first round up and down the board, it just became Shedeur. And maybe that's part of the reason why he slipped is the circus that comes with it. And they went, it's just not worth it for us. So you heard stories that he wasn't even on certain teams' boards because they said they just took him off, that the talent did not match all of the other things that might potentially come with it. Now, I would say in hindsight, getting him in the 5th round feels like a steal if you're Andrew Barry and company, that you did get him in the 5th round. But my question then would be, why Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round if you still had eyes on getting Shedeur Sanders in the 5th? Like, how does that match in that quarterback room that's also going to have Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett? You got 2 veterans now with these 2 rookies in the 3rd and 5th round.
I saw a tweet that like reordered the Browns draft. And if you reorder it, it makes a little more sense. Instead of drafting a 3rd round quarterback in 5th, like if you took Shedeur in the 1st and Gabriel in the 5th, you've been like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So going back to what I mentioned about where you're drafted and the idea of where you're going to play. So if you're a 3rd round pick like Dillon Gabriel, I think you're very clearly drafted to be a backup, right? To be a priority backup. Right. Normally, if you're Sanders in the 5th round, you're destined to be a backup too. And there are quarterbacks who played so well in training camp. Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, because Tony Romo was hurt, but clearly like played well enough to start. You can overcome that. But there's so many arms in that room. Flacco, Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, Sanders. How is he going to distinguish himself from the rest of the group, enabling himself to start as soon as possible? To me, it's almost not going to happen. It's not his fault at all that the room is so crowded. But you're right. Like, as far as spots that I thought he would do well in, Cleveland was certainly one of them. Stefanski's done well with a ton of quarterbacks. Doesn't have to have a quote-unquote running quarterback or mobile quarterback to win. It's not what Sanders is a passer. And this offense is set up well for quarterbacks that can be accurate, and Shedeur Sanders can be accurate. But I'm not sure how he breaks through the rep ceiling this time of year. I don't know, so that to me is the hardest part about right now is like, I don't know if he gets the reps in practice to do enough to show he can start immediately, but the spot and the value, I agree with that, is good for both of the teams.
Yeah. And again, are they going to carry 4 quarterbacks? Seems unheard of in this day and age in the NFL roster construction. So maybe one of those guys doesn't even make the team or gets cut. We'll find out what the Browns do there. Jeff, when we come back, I want to ask you about a new trend that's not a good one with NFL rookies as they wait to get drafted. We'll talk about that and then some here on the GM Show.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We continue the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Dave Ross and Jeff Schwartz here as well on a Monday. And Jeff, I was alluding to this going to break here. I don't know if this is a new phenomenon or not, but it's not a good one, that's for sure. We saw that Jax Ulbrich, the 21-year-old son of the Falcons D coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, made a prank phone call to Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft about, you've been drafted up. No, it's a prank. Ha ha. Not so funny. I know he's called Shedeur. Apparently they had a conversation. He apologized. Shedeur accepted it. But then you're hearing people online, Falcons should be docked a draft pick for this. They got to make a stance about this. We can't have this sort of thing happening. And then we hear that other players have been pranked, not only in years past, but also in this draft as well. I would hope that never happened to you. Did you know of this? Oh. Is this a new phenomenon or what's going on here?
I just think it's mean-spirited. Like it's not anything new. I mean, a punishment, I would like that there wasn't an iPad laying unsecure with prospects' phone numbers hanging out. Like that feels like, hey man, we got to button that up. I mean, should anyone be fired? I don't know, man. I believe karma will catch these kids at some point for that. I mean, not only did they do that, they filmed themselves doing it. Like, come on, like, right. And they released the video. And so, like, what do they think they were going to happen? Everyone's going to high five them. We might, we might be talking a lot about Sanders because of his drop. It doesn't mean we don't like Sanders or having against him. There's just thought that if you say something negative about Shedeur and Colorado and Dion, and not really Colorado per se, but they're all adjacent now, that you hate them, and that's not the case at all. You can be negative about anyone. It doesn't mean you hate anyone. It's our job to be critical. And there's just so much vitriol toward them. I don't understand that. the best way I've tried to explain it is that the first year they were at Colorado, there was so much hype that felt unnecessary and unwarranted. A lot of people got turned off immediately by that. And last year, when they were actually good, is when they should have got all the love and the hype, and they just didn't. And people have such a visceral reaction to the overreaction of them in the first 4 weeks of 2023 now that people seem to just really hate the family. I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what they've done to hate them. You might dislike their personalities, fine, but hate feels strong. And this feels like another example of just someone being a mean-spirited hater, dude. And hopefully karma catches up to those kids. I don't know. I mean, they're not gonna be docked a draft pick for that. It wasn't the coach who did it. I don't think the coach, I think people think the coach might have given him the number, and they're saying this idea about, the iPad is, I don't think the coach would give his kid the number of Shedeur Sanders. Like, come on. I mean, it was a bad decision by his son, and he has to live with that decision.
Totally. I'm with you 100%. I don't think there's anything that Geoff Ulbrich, the dad, again, let's keep that information to ourselves, not leave it on the iPad, as you mentioned, Geoff. I think that'd be the lesson to be learned there from the dad's perspective of it. But again, we heard that Cooper DeJean, this happened to him last year. He got pranked. Several other players got pranked, not by the same people, but this has been happening. If there's one good thing to come to light, I didn't even know this was a thing. So maybe now with the high exposure of Shedeur Sanders, everybody stop doing this. If you're thinking this is cool, think it's funny, it's not. These are kids, big days for these kids. And the last thing they need is the stress of prank phone calls to be made. So let's cut it. But I'm with you. I don't think we need to overreact either and go, we got to dock draft picks from organizations. If it happened, as somebody's kid, you'd hope this would be a lesson to be learned, that something like this should never happen like this ever again.
I agree. I just don't know what is funny about doing this, right? I mean, we're waiting for phone calls as players to fulfill our dream, and calling to prank them. You get some sort of satisfaction, I guess, in that, but I don't really know why that's entertaining at all. I mean, I've heard other prank calls that are not as serious as being drafted. That those seem more funny, right? But the part about this is that it's such a special day, and it also too wasn't going well for Sanders, and then to get this call, it just felt tasteless.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. So again, lesson everybody: don't do this. It's not funny. It's not cute. None of that. We don't need this anymore for future NFL prospects. I did want to ask you selfishly about the Cowboys pick at 12. They go out and get Tyler Booker. The Cowboys are infatuated with lineman named Tyler. So it continues again, getting the big guard. We know Zach Martin, obviously retiring. He's going to be in Canton, Ohio one day in the Hall of Fame. What do you make of that? Because I know the Cowboys have said they still need a wide receiver, and they have not said that they're done necessarily at the wide receiver position. Maybe they'll look to that in free agency. But a lot of people thought they might go receiver at 12, and yet they go guard at 12. What'd you make of that move?
So the Cowboys wanted T-Mac, right? Tetairoa McMillan, and he wasn't there. And I think next up on their board was Tyler Booker, where they were picking. It was sort of that simple. Look, Tyler Booker, his raw athletic scores are not great, but his film is fantastic. So you just have to put the film on. And what's funny about the Cowboys is, we knock them for their player evaluations from time to time. The one thing they've done better than anyone in the National Football League in the last 15 years is draft offensive linemen in the first round.
Yes.
Teron Smith, Hall of Famer. Zach Martin, Hall of Famer. Travis Frederick was a 3-time All-Pro, I think, before he got hurt. He was on that track to be a Hall of Famer. Tyler Smith, All-Pro. And now Booker, and even Beebe and Guyton were decent for rookies last season. I think Guyton was only first-round pick there. Beebe wasn't. But the fact is, this is what they've done so well over the years. And look, do they need a running back? Do you need wide receivers? Yes and yes. But look, this is why you spend months and months putting together a draft board. You have to trust your process. And the process told them that Booker was the best available position, at that moment. It took up, and again, this was not a draft full of offensive guards that could play immediately, and they probably viewed it as such.
Look, Cowboys drafting offensive linemen, you're never going to get a complaint out of me. So was I thinking they might go Golden out of Texas there at 12? Yeah, I thought they might go receiver there to go opposite CeeDee Lamb. I like this pick. You're never going to get an argument out of me if you're drafting O-line or D-line. That's where they went with their first two picks in Dallas. They're not sexy picks. I understand that. But those are normally the picks that Jerry and Stephen Jones in the front office traditionally has done well with. So I'm right there with you. I think it was actually a smart move by the Cowboys. I look at free agents that are out there at the wide receiver market. Amari Cooper, we saw the success he gave to Dak Prescott many moons ago. Keenan Allen's out there. Guys like Taj Boyd's out there. Robert Woods, DJ Shark. Do you think the Cowboys go one of those veteran routes and say, yeah, I don't know if it's a reunion with Amari Cooper, how much he has left in the tank, but do you think they will go with one more proven commodity for another year?
Yeah, I would call Pittsburgh and see what they're willing to give up for Pickens.
Wow.
That feels right. I mean, wouldn't you? I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing with the Pickens trade is that you would probably have to give him a new contract, which I just don't know if that is good for roster construction. But why not? Give him a call, right? Doesn't hurt.
If he's on the cheap, then maybe that's not a bad way to go for Jerry down there if you're looking for a big play receiver. You look at the championship odds now, obviously, to win the Super Bowl. Did any draft day moves, whether it's free agency and now incorporated with the draft, change your opinion? The Eagles are still the short shot here, plus 650 to win the Super Bowl and repeat. The Chiefs, who've been there 3 in a row, to win it this year, 7-1 with the Bills and Ravens also at that number. There's not a lot of shift in the marketplace here, Geoff, that says to me that this draft, unlike maybe a Jaden Daniels from a year ago, you saw the direct impact of that there. Any team really change your opinion after the draft?
No. I mean, for Super Bowl odds, no. I don't think you can make that call. I thought the Eagles got better. The Chiefs got better. I like what the Bills did with Harrison in the first round. It's so interesting. And Brandon Beane today, the Bills general manager, really pushed back because, he actually might have sworn on radio today because they basically said like, hey, why did you address wide receiver running back? He goes, what? You said that about Josh Allen a couple of years ago, that he was a bad draft pick. And look, again, Bills got premium players, right? I thought the Ravens did. I mean, the same teams, it's so funny, man. The teams that continue to win tend to have really good drafts. Kind of weird how that works. So, but nothing to where I would change my prediction about the Super Bowl. That is not in my mind at all.
It's hard to do that extrapolation of Jaden Daniels goes to DC last year. They get into the playoffs as a wild card team. CJ Stroud 2 years ago goes to Houston. They win the division the first 2 years. And people always forget the DeMeco Ryans part too there. It's DeMeco and CJ to have that success. So when you look at this crop of rookie quarterbacks that are coming in, and obviously Cam Ward's going to be that first one, can Brian Callahan in Tennessee, I don't want to say make that type of leap, like a CJ Stroud leap and or Jaden Daniels, but it does feel like he's the forgotten draft pick already. How big a change could he make in year one in Tennessee?
The roster in Tennessee is just not great around him. Like the Commanders roster is just that much better. And I think Daniels was, when you look back on it, just a more polished prospect, a more polished passer. Cam Ward has the upside to be really good, but the polish is just not there on his game. And I don't think early in his career, you're going to get that immediately. Look, is Calvin Ridley, Van Jefferson, Tyler Lockett are their wide receivers? They had Burks, obviously, who's never really loved. They drafted Iomanner from Stanford, who had a really good Colorado kid a couple of years ago. They tried to upgrade the offensive line with the additions of Moore, right? Running backs are fine. Pollard, Spears, who's good as a rookie, and good last season. So I would probably lean toward, obviously, improvement is there to be made because you're just better at quarterback, but the roster doesn't really scream out to me, we're going to have that Jaden Daniels. Now remember, Jaden Daniels had the best rookie season ever. So comparing him to anyone else, and that was after Stroud did so well, the bar is so high. Cam Ward can play well and not be Jaden Daniels.
And the other point there is too, as great as Jaden Daniels was, historic in winning Rookie of the Year, they still didn't win the division. So that's how hard this is when you're trying to go, well, what team with the new quarterback, new regime can go all the way, say, from worst to first that Tennessee's trying to do? Even the Commanders couldn't do it. And yes, they got in as a wild card, but the Eagles still won that division. So I think people, before you run to the window on some of those tickets, remember, even Jaden Daniels, they weren't able to win the division in year one, as great of a year as it was. Geoff, when we come back, I want to talk more about that because he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year last year in DC. Who's going to win it this year and what teams might expect some turnarounds with some of these rookies? We'll discuss that next when you come back with us right here on the GM Show.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome back to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Dave Ross alongside Jeff Schwartz here as we break down the NFL draft, looking at some of these odds that are associated with Rookie of the Year. And by the way, to get through a big-time show, whenever I'm preparing for you, Jeff, I need a little extra fuel. And that's what I have right here, people. And I tell everybody, I don't tell you all about this if I'm not using it myself. It actually tastes delicious, and it does help me get through shows like I do every day on VSiN and also this show. If you want to try it out and you haven't done so yet as a new customer, all you have to do is use my code SHUFFLE. You're going to get 15% off your first order, plus you're going to get a free gift. So check it out at Huel.com. Use the code SHUFFLE and 15% off right then and there. Talk about Rookie of the Year here, and I can understand why some of the short numbers are where they are out there. You're going to look at Cam Ward, number 1 overall to Tennessee. Ashton Genty, 6th overall out here to the Raiders. Like, Jeff, that said to me, what a Pete Carroll pick. It seemed to make a whole lot of sense for me. If you had to just kind of look at the market and say, do I want to go quarterback? We get it. Jaden Daniels won it last year. Or do I want to take a look at that running back in Ashton Genty at 2-1, plus $2 there? Cam Ward is plus 230. There's the two-way player, potentially Travis Hunter. Those are the 3 short shots in the board. What do you make of Genty as the 6th overall pick out here in the desert?
Well, I mean, who's blocking for him, Dave? Like, that's the thing. That's like, I mean, that's my problem.
Coming out of
Like,
retirement?
I mean, they pay a lot more now. I would come out of retirement. I did turn to my wife during the 7th round. We were in the 6th round and said, like, I was drafted 17 years ago. Like, that's, I don't feel that old. I'm going to be 39. So, yeah, 39 in July. I don't feel that old. I don't think I look 39. Do I look? I don't think I look 39. But I don't feel that old. But like, it was a long time ago. Jeez. No, I'm very done. Look, so Ashton Genty, they got a premium player in this draft, but so my running back take is this. Okay, I have been for years on the don't draft backs in the 1st round and don't sign him in free agency. Like, you could take a 3rd round back, you let him play his rookie contract, you let him go to another back. I've amended that because we have new information. And this is new information. If you drop Saquon Barkley onto the Eagles roster, you drop McCaffrey onto the 49ers roster, you drop Derrick Henry onto the Ravens roster, if you drop a running back of that talent and caliber onto an already made offense, they're going to supercharge that offense. It's very clear now. We see that. But you're not dropping Ashton Genty to an offense ready to be supercharged. You're dropping an offense that's figuring out their offensive line. Who are the wide receivers right now? So I think that you're dropping into an offense that's incomplete. You're probably not going to get the best out of him for a couple years. So your roster is complete. So like, you drafted him, I think, like a little bit early. Right now, it's Trey Tucker, Jack Beck, who they just drafted, Jacoby Myers. They drafted Dante Thornton too. What's their wide receiving group right now? Offensive line, Colton Miller's holding out right now. He'll play, obviously. Jordan Meredith, JPJ, who I like, Dylan Parham, and DJ Glaze. So it's like a lot of, a couple upper echelon guys. JPJ might be good at that level one day, but sort of unknown otherwise. And so I get it from like a talent perspective. You drafted a talented running back, but I don't think that he takes you to a different level with your offense unsettled with the roster. Now, as far as it comes to Rookie of the Year, he right now would be the only bet I would make, but I'll just tell you this, Dave. You can wait on Genty. Like, you're not getting the best number right now, in my opinion. Just wait. Wait till week 2 or 3 or 4 when he started a little bit slow and he's plus 400, plus 450, plus 500. There's plenty of time right now. I think now you only take long shots or nothing. And I'm not even advising you to take a long shot. I think the running backs are the way to go in this class. I don't see Cam Ward being the guy. Wide receiver, to me, feels very difficult to win this award. Genty's going to get a ton of carries. Omarion Hampton is going to get a ton of carries in Los Angeles. Like those to me feel like even Henderson, like some of the Quinshaw Junkins, like these guys are going to get carries in those offenses. So that feels like the direction to go now. Don't take Genty at this moment. You get better number later. If you really love one of these long shots, that to me is where you go.
I do love your Marion Hampton mention. He's 16-1 out there with the Chargers because you know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to do what his brother does in Baltimore. He wants to pound the rock there. So that does make some sense to me. Let me ask you maybe a small surprise in the draft and some numbers correlated with it is that the Bears at 10 went tight end. That's not the surprise. It might be which tight end they decided to draft. And I think that's maybe where some of the surprise comes with Colston Loveland. He's 22-1 to win that award. And Tyler Warren then goes to the Colts at 13, and he's 30-1. But if Brock Bowers couldn't win the award last year, and Jaden Daniels was just that good, we all understand it. But Brock Bowers had a historic season for a rookie tight end, and he couldn't win it. Could you make a case for either of these guys? And you think the Bears got it right with the tight end they selected at 10?
Well, I had Loveland plus 500 to go number one tight end. So I very much appreciate the Bears' decision-making process there. I think Warren's better, but I think that Loveland might fit the Bears' offense better, if that makes sense. His ability to catch the ball. And you have to remember, guys, when you analyze his film, he played in an offense in college that was allergic to the forward pass. So he probably would have been, quote unquote, better, right, if he had played in a different offense. So I don't mind the decision, but I do think that Tyler Warren, the problem is his quarterback situation is really bad in Indianapolis. I think these tight ends are live. Remember, last year, Brock Bowers did not win because Jaden Daniels had the best rookie season of all time. It wasn't that he wasn't good enough to win the award. He just ran into a buzzsaw in that year. That's why I think it's still possible to take one of the tight ends if you really feel strongly about him, because we're not going to get a Jaden Daniels season from Cam Ward.
I'm looking at Tedera McMillan at 14-1, Carolina there, but the problem there is it Bryce Young? Like, can we are we waiting for Bryce in year 3, former number 1 pick, obviously in the draft, to be able to make that huge step that you would want a guy now going into year 3 with now a receiver, the first receiver off the board. And as you mentioned, the Cowboys wanted him at 12, and he didn't even get close to getting to 12. So it feels like McMillan, by most draft boards, was the number 1 choice in the board. Carolina gets him. Is he playable at 14-1? He just not trust the quarterback enough.
Well, it's not that. I just, big wide receivers like him, they take a little longer to be ready to play in the NFL. Like that's my concern. It's just is he going to be that impactful immediately coming in the league? And I think the answer is probably yes, but I think it's not worth doing now. Again, these numbers will change. You can get a better number, I think, later on him if he starts slow with figuring out things with Bryce Young, just getting used to just playing in the National Football League. His issue, in quotes, is being able to, is being able to, get separation. And so it might take him time to do that in the NFL. That's why I think Benjamin now is probably not the right decision.
By the way, don't call him Tet. If you heard his mother, he was asked that by
really?
The Panthers. Yeah, they said the Panthers asked him, Jeff, they go, is there a reason why you don't like to be called Tet? And his mother was there, and he said, would you like to answer? And the mom said, it's because I named him Tetaroa. So you can call him T-Mac or you can call him Tetaroa, but he does not want to go by Tet. So everybody out there, just know that. That's straight from mom, and that's straight from the son. And I'm a mama's boy. My mom's watching our show, Jeff, and I oblige by what mom says. So if she says call him Tetaroa, you call him Tetaroa, or you call him T-Mac.
I mean, everyone shortens names. It's easier to say T-Mac. Like, it's cool. It's cool. No?
That's what mom says, though, Jeff. You got to go. Mom says Tetaroa or T-Mac. You can't go Ted anymore.
I'm sorry, Mom. I'm still calling him T-Mac. I'm sorry.
T-Mac's good. She's good with T-Mac.
T-Mac's Tet. Okay. Tet.
Tet's not good. Tet's out. You got to go T-Mac or Tetaroa, and then you're good. No.
Here's the thing. So I tell my kids this who like, they talk about like nicknames at school, and obviously there's some meaner ones than other ones, but I'm like, that like if your coach nicknames you or something, like that's a good thing. That means they like you. Like that means like that's a good thing if they give you a nickname. So like being called like Tet, like that feels like uh not a term of endearment, but that you're liked by your peers. Like they come up with a nickname for you. Now, to be fair, some people probably can't pronounce his name. That is true. It's probably she doesn't like the Tet part of this one specifically. But T-Mac, okay. So T-Mac's okay. T-Mac's okay, but T-Mac's not interesting.
She doesn't like Tet, but she does like Tettarella. You can go with a full name. Cool name once you get it down. Let's throw a dart out there in the board in the form of Jackson Dart. He's 28-1 to win Rookie of the Year offensive. And, of course, we saw the Giants trade back into the first round there. You already have Jameis Winston. You already have Russell Wilson. Do we see a lot of Jackson Dart this year to even make him live at 28-1?
No, I think they don't even want to play him today. I mean, this year, I should say. So I would probably think that this is just again not a play right now. Look, I've not said this on this show, so I'll say it again. I know people want value in the wagers they make. And they often view value with these big numbers, right? 16-1, 20-1, 50-1. Value is not wagering on a ticket that's not going to win. But that's not value to me. So just wagering on Jackson Dart to say you wager on him, to me, is not value. Value would be wagering on Omarion Hampton or like somebody that's going to actually win the award. Jackson Dart's not going to start the season as their quarterback. He's not going to win the award. So wagering on him to say I have value at 50-1, well, you value losing your money. I mean, I've never understood the idea of I get asked a lot to like, give me your long shot, for this award. I'm like, okay, here you go. You're going to lose your money, but here's my long shot for you. It doesn't happen very often, man.
No, it's good advice too, because I think you're right, Geoff. People just see a big number and think, oh, that's value. There's no value in that number. If the guy can't get on the field, they're not going to want to play. You looking for value down the board? Look at Jadon Blue, 40-1 for the Cowboys at running back. He's going to get a lot of time.
There you go.
He's going to be in the mix there. That's a playable number. If you really think you want to take a long shot, I wouldn't even advocate that. But to your point, Geoff, don't play a long number just because it's a long number. You're not going to cash that one with Jackson Dart. When we come back, let's look defense. See if there's any numbers and players that we like after the NFL draft. That is next here on the GM Show.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We continue the GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings and VSiN. Dave Ross, Geoff Schwartz here with you on a Monday. 17 years, huh, Geoff? That's how long ago it was you were drafted? Tell me what that day was like for you on that draft day.
Oh, boy. So how about this? Okay, so that year there were a lot of tackles taken on the first day. So back then it was rounds 1 and 2 on a Saturday, and then 3 through 7 were on a Sunday. And the first 2 rounds, there were 10 offensive tackles taken. There were 8 actually in the first round, okay? And I thought I was anywhere between the 11th and 15th best tackle. And I always thought I'd be a 4th or 6th round pick. So my agents told me I never had these grandeurs of being anything better than that. But because 10 were taken the first day, the second day I made the mistake of waking up at 5:45 a.m. on the West Coast and sitting on my parents' futon and watching the draft. So 3rd round goes by, 4th round goes by, nothing, no calls, nothing. Now, looking back on it, it does, like there typically are runs on players from a position, and then there's a break in that draft from that position. So at the time, I did not think, I did not know that that's the way it works. I'm looking up right now. I don't think there was a tackle taken probably in the 3rd, the 3rd to 5th round. There probably were not many tackles taken that year because the run happened early in the draft. Those were taken. And then obviously, you go from, look, I'm looking right now. There was a bunch of offensive linemen taken, and no one listed offensive tackle was taken until the 3rd round again. So like there's a break, right? It's just always the way it is. Couple in the 4th round, couple in the 5th round. So I started getting calls in the 5th round from teams saying, hey, we're thinking about drafting you. You're on our mind. Pay attention to the TV. We might draft you. Come to find out, that's how they start buttering you up. When you're an undrafted free agent, that's how they get you to come. They say, hey, man, like, we called you. Like, we love you. And it got to a point where, like, we had a party scheduled. We canceled the party, the post-draft party. Because, you know, the West Coast, if the draft over by, like, noon, you know, you have a day left. This is the way the old schedule before was in prime time. And I went outside to play basketball. Like, I just tried to distract myself. And I kept getting these calls from scouts and O-line coaches. And then actually, so I went back inside for the 7th round. And I got a call from the Panthers. And at that time, Brandon Beane, who's a Bills general manager, was like in charge of calling the prospects later in the draft. Then he was like, he was lower in the front office totem pole. And he called me and he said to me, this is verbatim what happened. He said, hey, are you excited to be drafted? And so I said, at this point, I don't even care, because I'd been told by so many people that I was their next up. I was next up. Like, you're next. Like, all right. So at that point, I thought it was another one of those calls. Like, are you excited to be drafted? So I said, at this point, I don't even care. And then they said, well, we've been drafted by the Carolina Panthers. So obviously, you know, I got excited. It was great once that happened. But yeah, that was, you know, you look at the draft now, looking back at, like, you know, right now, and you look at like the guys that were drafted ahead of you. I knew some of these players. I was like, well, how is he drafted ahead of me? I mean, it's like, it just seems crazy. And so, yeah, it's the way it went. It was fun at the end. And then everyone came like back to the party. Like, everyone sort of showed back up anyways. And we had a party, you know, in the end.
You were like Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption trying to get out on parole.
Correct.
Okay.
This one don't really care.
Right. Just write whatever you want to write on there. I don't even care at this point.
And then obviously he got paroled. So, yeah, I mean, you look at like, you know, this, you know, these, like, I'm looking at these names right now of guys that drafted ahead of me. A lot just didn't play as much as I did. So that's, I have that in my feather in my cap.
You know what? And Geoff, that's the next question I wanted to ask you. When you look at how your career turned out, and obviously very, very well. And I look back and say Kirk Cousins, who was a 4th round pick, Dak Prescott, 4th round pick, whatever you think of those guys as quarterbacks, they're going to have double-digit years in the league, right? What would be the value that if your career, it plays out exactly the way it did, what do you think the true value of your pick was? Because it clearly was much more than a 7th round pick.
Yeah. I'm probably a 3rd or 4th rounder. I just got hurt a bunch. You know, if I wasn't hurt, I would be probably a 2nd round pick. But, because I was on track to start my 3rd year, and I did. I played every snap my 3rd season, which is sort of, if you're a lower round pick, that's sort of when the team has to see something in you by your 3rd year. If they don't, you're gone. So I started my entire 3rd year. Everyone got fired. I was slated to start my 4th year and got hurt in training camp, and then didn't play that season. 5th year, go to Minnesota, got hurt in training camp again, in and out of the lineup my 5th year. My 6th year, got to Kansas City, finally healthy. They signed me to be a backup. Like, that's what my contract was. Halfway through the season, there was an injury. I played well enough that when the starter was healthy, they kept me in there. So I started that entire back half of the 6th season. Giants signed me to be a starter. I got hurt again. So year 8, I was a starter again and got hurt, you know, week 11. So I had 3rd year supposed to start, 4th year supposed to start, didn't happen. 6th year, I got hurt a bunch. So that's the life in the National Football League. But certainly, you know, had opportunities to, you know, to play much more. So I think, you know, 3rd or 4th round pick probably is where my value ended up being.
Yeah. It shows that the Panthers got it right that day by calling you, even though you were not overly thrilled at that point when you got the call.
It was nuts.
I'm sure Abdul Carter was pretty darn happy about the Giants making him the 3rd overall pick. He, of course, is the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year this year at plus 250. And there's really a gap right there in the odds market from Abdul Carter to Travis Hunter, who obviously with Duval trading up to 2 to take Travis Hunter at plus 750. But again, if he's a two-way player, you wonder if there's any value in that number of Travis Hunter. Michael Williams goes 11 to San Francisco. He's the 3rd betting choice there. And then Jalen Walker, as we talked about here with the Browns, as the fourth betting choice. What do you make of Abdul Carter at the short shot?
Yeah.
They've got a really good line, it looks like, Geoff. So I think theoretically he's going to get a lot of single opportunities to beat tackles and beat tight ends.
Yeah. But he also might not play a ton. I mean, how are they going to do the rotation, right? Because they have Kayvon Thibodeau, who I think they said they're going to pick up the 5th-year option on. Yeah, that's what I heard. Maybe they're not.
Yep.
Then you have Brian Burns. You have Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. I just don't know where the reps are early in his career. I have to figure that out. Look, the defensive player of the year as a rookie has been DN, corner, DN. I'll call him pass rusher, basically. Shaquille Leonard in 2018, who had like a bazillion tackles as a rookie, like incredible season. Marshawn Lattimore, pass rusher. And then again, it's like pass rusher, Luke Kuechly, Von Miller, Sue. Like it's so the best call is just pick up the pass rusher you think is going to have the best rookie season. I don't have a great answer for you. The hard part about picking other positions is it's very stat based, right? So like Jahad Campbell might have a great year in Philly, but he might have 60 tackles. I don't know. Again, like Malachi Starks or Travis Hunter. Are people going to go off their PFF grade or your interception? You might have a great year as a corner and get one interception. So that's why I think it's hard to pick anyone, but we have actual stats for these defensive linemen.
See, that's the interesting thing about Travis Hunter at plus 750, because, again, remember Andrew Berry, when it looked like he's going to be a Cleveland Brown leading up to the draft process, said this is Shohei Ohtani and cleats. He's a two-way player, all those things. And I'm assuming Brian Callahan's going to use him at receiver in Tennessee. And I don't know how much time he gets at corner, but if he is, Geoff, let's just go with what Travis Hunter wants. He wants to be a two-way player. He wants to redefine what it can be to be a receiver in a corner in this league. How many picks would it take in order for him to be in play to win this award? Does he need 4 as a rookie? And it shouldn't theoretically matter what he does offensively, but I wonder how the voters take that into account if he's a two-way player.
Buddy, I like the premise of this. Maybe I'll be wrong on that. I just don't think he's playing both ways. I think that they can talk about it all they want, but it's not been done. Dion did a little bit of it.
Yes,
but not a little, not a ton. It wasn't like they like that. He can do that. He can play corner and then do some offense. I mean, I'm looking right now. I mean, Dion had 36 catches in 1996.
Yep.
67 targets. Otherwise, that was about it. He had he had 4, 10. Like 1 year he had 10 with 10 targets, 11 with 11 targets. 11 targets, 7 catches. 10 targets, 6 catches. 3, 6, 2, 36, 0, 7, 4. Those are his receiving yards. Like his receptions in a given season.
Yeah.
So, again, I go back to this. The playbook and understanding the playbook is so vast in the NFL that learning both sides to me feels utterly impossible. Can you be a corner in a wide receiver package? Yes, you can do that. But can you be a wide receiver in a corner package? No. Defenses are too complex. If he's like you just play man coverage on defense when we have you in there, well, then I know what you're doing on offense. That's good. It's an advantage for me that you're playing man coverage every time Travis Hunter's in the game. So I don't see it, man. I just don't. So you can wager on Travis Hunter to win these awards once they tell you what position he's going to play.
Right. I'll tell you the other way that I would attack this, and I talked about this here on VSiN by the Books. If you don't want to play the short number on Abdul Carter plus 250, Geoff, I think the way to do it is attack his individual sack number. Yes. Because in order to win that award, you would think you'd have to get 8 sacks. I believe that's minus $1.10. If you got 9 sacks, then you're getting that plus money, plus $3, which is
if he gets 7. It's normally 7.5 for rookies, right? The sack number most years. Yeah, that's only what it's at.
But wouldn't you rather play that and say, hey, and then if Travis Hunter does play corner and he's exceptional, at least I cashed a ticket that I would have to cash anyway in order for him to be eligible theoretically for this award, right? That's the way to play it.
Yeah. I think so. I think so too. I'm looking now because again, like Parsons had 13 as a rookie. I mean, that's a lot of sacks, man.
That's a lot of sacks.
And I don't think Carter is that good yet.
You can get over 10-1, I believe, on Carter to have 11 or more sacks, to have a Micah Parsons year. But, Geoff, I'm with you. That feels like a little bit too much. But, again, we don't advocate playing that short number at plus 250. Geoff, great stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate you sharing your story, too, on DraftKings.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I got drafted, though. In the end, that's what mattered. It happened.
And you had a really good career, my friend. For Geoff Schwartz, I'm Dave Ross. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right here on the GM Show.